Good morning, everyone. This Shabbat, we will conclude the story of the building of the tabernacle. And it's fascinating that Genesis, the first book of the Torah, began with God building a home for mankind. And the conclusion of Exodus is mankind building a home for the Jewish people. But in the very first verse, it says this was the tabernacle of testimony. And our rabbis explained that after the sin of the golden calf, God gave the Jewish people the mitzvah to build the Mishkan to say, we can repair this relationship by, instead of using your gold and silver to build a golden calf, you will build a dwelling place for me and invite me into your lives through the tabernacle. And this is a model not just for our relationship with God, but for every single marriage. Our rabbis say that the chuppah, the wedding canopy, is one of the interpretations is that it represents the home, but the chuppah also represents the tabernacle. Because the tabernacle was where the union of husband and wife, God and the Jewish people, dwelt together. Matter of fact, the breaking of the glass under the chuppah reminds us of the breaking of the tablets. But the message of the tabernacle is that marriages can be repaired. When there is a rupture, when there is a fracture, when there is a crack in a marriage, like the sin of the golden calf, there's an opportunity to be redeemed and to recreate the love in the marriage. But it's not just a one-time repair. It's an ongoing message. You see, John Gottman, one of the greatest psychologists who wrote many books about marriage, says he could predict 94% accurately which marriages will last. And he says the greatest indicator whether a marriage will last is not how little the couple fight, but rather how well they repair their disagreements and their falling outs with one another. In other words, to say it bluntly, he says that in order to stay in love, you have to know how to fight. Meaning to say, some couples, once they get into a fight, they don't know how to reconcile. They don't know how to repair the relationship. All couples will have disagreements and sometimes fights, but the question and what determines if the marriage will be lasting is if they know how to reconnect after a falling out and a disagreement. Adam and Eve, in the story of Genesis, sinned and they were banished from paradise, but they never repaired their relationship with God. The Jewish people sinned with the golden calf, but they managed to reconstruct a loving marriage. And the way we do that is with the book of sacrifices, Vayikra, that we're going to go into next week. There were three types of major sacrifices. There were the daily offerings. In a marriage, you need the daily acts of giving, of kindness to one another. Then there was the Karban Todah, the Thanksgiving offering. You have to have special moments of outpouring and showing of gratitude to one another. And then, of course, there's the sin offering. To be able to atone, to be able to say I'm sorry, to be able to correct the wrong and repair a hurt. And that's why the Mishkan is so important, not just for our relationship with God, but as a symbol and a model for our relationship for our loved ones, for our spouses. There was a story told about this beautiful couple, and she had worked in a company for many years and never received a promotion. And she's told her husband, I feel I was overlooked, never promoted, never given a raise. And he encouraged her to go talk to her boss and say, I feel I deserve a raise after all these years and a promotion in my title. And finally, she chose the day that she was going to go to her boss. She made up that at the end of the day, she would knock on his door and go talk to him. She went into her boss's office at the end of the day. He said, can I speak to you? And told her how she feels. And the boss said, you're right. I agree. You're an extraordinary employee. You deserve recognition and promotion, and I'm going to give it to you. She comes running home from work to tell her husband the good news. When she comes into the house, she sees the dinner table is set beautifully with a beautiful dinner and flowers. And she says, I got the promotion. And he says, let's celebrate. And he said, I knew you would get the promotion because you're extraordinary. You deserve it. And he hands her a beautiful card, a loving card, congratulating her on her promotion. And they have this beautiful dinner celebrating together. When they finished the dinner, they got up from the table to start cleaning up. She was cleaning up around the table and she noticed an envelope on the floor where he was sitting. And she looked at the envelope and it had her name on it. It was a greeting card. And it had fallen out of her husband's pocket. And she picked it up, opened it up, and there was a card that said, "I'm so sorry, my beloved wife, that you were not given the promotion. But I want you to know, despite whether your boss recognizes your greatness and your true worth and value, I know how great you are. I love you so much. You are so worthy and deserving, and I will always love you." And she then realized that her husband had prepared the dinner with 2 envelopes, whichever way the meeting went. That's unconditional love. That's knowing how to not only celebrate people when times are good, but even when people make mistakes, like the Jewish people with the sin of the golden calf, to see their inner good, their inner potential, and to say, "I love you unconditionally, I will celebrate you." And even though we may have had a falling out, like the Jewish people and God with the golden calf, there is a chance to redeem ourselves, to repair, and to make sure we have the ongoing love through the daily acts of giving, like in the temple, through the giving of the gratitude sacrifice, and ultimately to know how to say, "I'm sorry," and repair a sin when one has offended or hurt one another. The Mishkan is not just a testament to our relationship with God, but with one another. Have a wonderful day.